Howdy. Well, you saw the thumbnail, so I'm going to talk about that a little bit and a few other things. If you're looking to be in business and you're hoping to make a lot of money, you might want to just listen to a little bit of this because it's important. At this point, I'm no longer a corporation. I had to dissolve it a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to tell you why I had to do that in a little bit. Anyhow, this is the cover. It covered this thing. Got my name up here. It's got this thing here that I really don't know what it is. CSC. I think it's part of the law firm that did this for me. The thing is that if you want to work for yourself or you want to work with a lot of other people, then you're probably going to want to get into a corporation because you might make a lot of money. And if you make a lot of money, then you need to know what to do with your taxes. I actually made a lot of money. For a 2-year period or 2.5-year period, I made about $450,000. This is back in the middle 2000s. I was hopping. I was feeling really good, but I was paying my taxes. So I would go to, Staples or one of those other stores, and I would buy that little tax kit. If you're in America, you know what that is. And you buy that tax kit and you fill all the information in as best you can, and then you mail it in along with the payment. I used to basically, as an employee, I had them take enough money out so I never had to pay it because it was already paid ahead of time. But you don't have that option when you're working for yourself. I had a business license, and really I thought that's all I needed. So I did that. I sent the money in, and then in 2007, I got the first big amount of money that I had to pay for the federal government. So, whatever it is, federal government, because it turns out that those little kits are not meant for businesses. They're meant for individuals. I got the first one. I got the second one. I owed them in total probably about $55,000. I didn't know that. Here's the other thing. I was paying individual taxes, or actually joint, me and my ex at the time, and we were just in trouble. So I ended up finding a way to pay it all down. Whew, that was lucky. But I called my accountant and I said, Terry, I don't know what to do. I'm in this trouble. They got all this stuff on here. So she suggested that I become a corporation. Now there's 3 different types of corporations. One is called an LLC. And in an LLC, you can have more than one person who's in this thing. But what happens is at the end of the year, all that money has to be split up between the people who've signed up to be in the corporation, and then they have to treat it just like regular taxes. They take it to an accountant, and that gets done. Then you have an S Corp. That's what I had. And basically, you have an S Corp. It depends on where you live. For instance, I didn't have to pay a whole lot of money because I live in New York State. But I still had to pay something, but I didn't pay Social Security. I never thought to ask the question. I didn't pay into Social Security. And the thing is that I basically only had a year and a half where I didn't make that kind of money I was making beforehand, but I made pretty good money over the course of the time that I had the corporation. I had short-term things, so 3 months I could make maybe, between $40,000 and $50,000, which sounded pretty cool, but then I had a long wait. So that's how that's been. It never, like I said, it never occurred to me that nothing was going to Social Security. It starts to explain things now, but I didn't know that then. So if you have these things and you're making good money, you really need to talk to an accountant to figure out what to do. If not, you're probably going to be good. But here's the thing. Last year, the federal government passed something or got something passed called the Corporate Transparency Act. And in essence, what that said is that if you are either a big corporation or a small corporation, you have to, fill out this extra paperwork that the federal government has. It's going to cost you about $200 to do that. Well, I'm not doing any of that kind of thing anymore. It's just, I'm not making that kind of money. I have a part-time job. There it is. So I'm like, wow, geez, I didn't know anything about that. However, I did know something about it because I wrote an article for my accountant's blog. And basically, I wrote an article on the Corporate Transparency Act. And I did all this research and I wrote this article down. And there was this one thing that said if you are a sole proprietor, then you're good. You don't have to worry about this at all. I'm thinking, well, yeah, I'm a sole proprietor. I'm an S Corp. It's just me. So I should be good. Then my lawyer called 2 weeks ago and he says, hey, we got to talk about this thing. And so he's telling me about it. And I said, well, yeah, I wrote an article about it for Terry back last February. Wrote this whole thing. I'm a sole proprietor, so I'm covered. He says, no, that's not how that works. He says, legally, once you become incorporated, you're not a sole proprietor. A sole proprietor is someone who has basically a home business. Now, they may not make tons of money, but sometimes they do. If they do repairs for houses, or if they install roofs, or install windows, or they do any of that kind of thing, then they're a sole proprietor. They're not an S Corp. They're not a LLC. They're just a regular business. They have an accountant who puts all this stuff together, and then at the beginning of the new year, they do all the taxes, and then they pay their share of it. So now I'm like, oh my. He says, yeah. Just to fill out the work that you have to send to the federal government, that's going to cost $750. I said, what? Why? He said, actually, that's my fee. That's our law firm's fee. $750. That's what it would cost us to do this for you. I said, okay. I'm not sure that I want to go that route. He said, well, that would save you money. What I would recommend is let me talk to Terry first, because she's the one who recommended me to go to him all those years ago. She said, let me talk to her first and see what she thinks we should do. So he calls me back 20 minutes later. He says, okay, I talked to her, and she says, yes, you're going to need to do something for that. And you have two choices. One, you can pay me the $750 to fill out this work for you. Or two, you can have Terry do something for you. I said, okay. And then what about the corporation? And he said, she thinks you should just dissolve the corporation. You're not doing that kind of thing anymore. And if you happen to get something, you're not going to make $200,000 a year anymore at your age. He's right on that, which is depressing, but that's the truth of it. So I said, okay. He said, you're going to need to come get your corporate books. Because I had them for a long time, and then I gave them to him to hold on to. And it turns out that he didn't remember why he had them. So there you go. So I go over there, and I get my books. And then I call Terry. I said, Terry, I know you spoke to Gary about this whole thing. What do you think? She says, I think you should dissolve it. How do you feel about it? I said, I've been thinking about it for a while. I love having the book, but I'm just not going to be doing that kind of thing. I don't want to chase it like that anymore. I don't want to be driving 6 to 8 hours. I don't want to be flying all over the country anymore. That's exhausting. I mean, I was doing pretty good back then, even though I wasn't as healthy then as I am now, but I just don't want to do that all the time anymore. She says, okay, I'll dissolve it for you. It's only 10 minutes. All you need is a copy of your driver's license. I said, 10 minutes? That's all it's going to take? She says, yeah. I said, Gary said he was going to charge me $750. She says, what? She said, I've been doing it for free all these years. He's charging you $750. She said, it doesn't take but 10 minutes and you're done with it. I think that's sneaky. I said, well, he's a lawyer after all. So I sent her my driver's license. She sends me something back saying, okay, your corporation is dissolved. You're good. We're not going to have to worry about you because I haven't been doing your taxes as a business for at least the last 7 or 8 years. So you're covered. But you know, it turns out that I get to keep the book. So I get to keep it. It's not legit anymore, but I can still put it in my bookcase. I'm probably only going to keep it for a couple of years because I loved looking at that thing all the time. But I'll, keep it in a bookcase, and then at some point I will open up the 3-ring binder and I will shred everything and I will be protected. But at least I got to tell this story, and I got to warn any of you who are working for yourself in the United States. So Orlando, wherever it is you live, and I think you're somewhere in Australia, you don't have to worry about this. But for anyone else, if you're doing a regular business on your own, if you're making a bunch of money, you should probably get some kind of corporation. And if you're not, you're probably good. But definitely go see an accountant or call an accountant and see what they will do for you, what they will recommend. I dodged the bullet. I'm so happy that I dodged the bullet. But let me know, are y'all in any kind of business? Was this helpful? Did you laugh at me because I sound like a moron? I just need to know. Anyway, that's what I have. My name is Mitch Mitchell. Syracuse. There you go. I'll talk with y'all later.